Hey there YouTube lovers, my name is BB8 and today we are going to be ranking all of the Nintendo consoles from worst to best. This does include handhelds but excludes variants of different consoles, but there are a few exceptions to variants in here. Like some of these I haven't actually owned myself, but have tried from friends, family, or lunchtime clubs back when I was at school. Now, let's get into it, shall we? Number 15, the Virtual Boy. So starting off with the Virtual Boy might be a bit controversial that I have put this at the bottom of the list. Only because the Wii U. Because I do think the Virtual Boy is the worst Nintendo console in my opinion, because the library of the Virtual Boy was quite small, and it would cause eye strain if you used it for longer than 30 minutes. And it's not recommended to people who are 7 years or younger. I guess virtual reality must have been a failure in the 90s, but looks like the 2010s managed to revive the VR industry. Number 14, the Wii Mini. So the reason I put the Wii Mini at number 14 is because this is a downgraded version of the original Wii, removing Wi-Fi capabilities, the LAN port, as well as the GameCube controller and memory ports. And this technically felt like an all-physical version of the Wii. But technically most consoles were like all-physical back in the 90s, so if you really want to go for the cheapest Wii experience possible, I'd probably bet buying a Wii Mini wouldn't really have a big effect in 2022, only because the Wii Shop channel shut down, as well as the online play, so it wouldn't really have that big of an effect. Number 13, the Pokemon Mini. I probably bet most of you watching this video right now are wondering what a Pokemon Mini is. Technically, it was like a Tamagotchi-sized console that released back in the early 2000s. 1 year before Ruby and Sapphire released. It kind of blended a Game Boy and a Tamagotchi together, and mainly had Pokemon-based games on it. But the only problem is with the Pokemon Mini is the library was quite small. Usually at the time it released it cost $30 and $15 per game. Nowadays, the Pokemon Mini is ridiculously expensive on eBay. So personally, the way I would tackle this is probably wait for GameCube to be added to Switch Online and Pokemon Channel to be added to the library. That's probably the best way to play the Pokemon Mini nowadays. Either emulating Pokemon Channel or waiting for Pokemon Channel to come to Switch Online if GameCube eventually does. Number 12, the Game Boy Color. The reason I put the Game Boy Color at 12 is mainly because the Game Boy Color, compared to the original Game Boy, does not have that major improvements to the console as we thought. Well, they have added color to Game Boy games, and the colored shells are pretty nice as well, but the speakers, in the other hand, are exactly the same as before, And I didn't really see the point of this console really existing if the Game Boy Advance was gonna release 3 years after. Number 11, the Wii U. I know I didn't put the Wii U on the very bottom of the list, but I did put the Wii U on the bottom half, mainly because this console was like, it wasn't the worst Nintendo console of all time, but this was a major source of Nintendo's Dark Age games. Along with a few games we don't talk about, alongside Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, and a lot more. But there were a bunch of hidden gems throughout the Wii U, like Super Mario 3D World, Mario Kart 8, and as well as New Super Mario Bros. U. So not all Wii U titles were terrible. It was just the console didn't really sell well, which the titles didn't sell well, but the best of the Wii U managed to get a second chance on the Switch. Number 10, Nintendo 64. The reason I put the Nintendo 64 this low on the list was mainly because the controller for the Nintendo 64 was quite uncomfortable. But there is, of course, third-party options that exist. Well, the games weren't exactly terrible on the Nintendo 64. Well, we do have some favourites of mine from this console, such as Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Banjo-Kazooie. Like, the Nintendo 64 is not all the way terrible. It's just the major problem with this console is mainly its controller, and how uncomfortable it was to play, and the analog stick was just terrible. But with the emulation on Nintendo Switch Online kind of getting better, hopefully I can experience Ocarina of Time a bit better. Number 9, the Game Boy. It might get a bit controversial that I have put the Game Boy this low on the list due to the fact that, I'm not gonna lie, the Game Boy, it's a great console. Like, it's a great handheld for, like, the 90s. Like, we have had games like Super Mario Land, Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and the birth of the Pokemon franchise. But the only problem with buying a Game Boy in modern day is if you were to play a Game Boy in bed now, that you wouldn't be able to see anything. So if you were to buy a Game Boy now, I do recommend either modding your Game Boy to have a backlight or importing the Game Boy Light from Japan. If it's somewhere out there on eBay, which I don't know if it is, I have not checked. Number 8, the Nintendo Entertainment System. This list is probably just going to be full of a whole bunch of controversial opinions, but the Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the Famicom in Japan, is like quite an iconic console to 80s kids and Nintendo fans. Having games such as the Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Kirby's Adventure, Castlevania, DuckTales, and a lot more. But the only thing I don't really like about this console is the way you insert the cartridge. Because it's the way you had to pull up a tab. You put the cartridge in and lock it down. Like, that's the only thing I don't really like about the NES. It's just the way you insert the cartridge. But later consoles, like the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, do it better and simpler. Number 7, the Nintendo 3DS. The Nintendo 3DS I probably do get nostalgia from, mainly because of its games from like Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and a whole bunch more. And my favourite Pokemon remake, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Well, I do like the fact this console does have a variety of models to choose from, like the Nintendo 3DS XL, the 2DS, the new Nintendo 3DS, the new Nintendo 3DS XL, and the new Nintendo 2DS XL, which, of course, all of them do have something unique to them, but the one thing I do have a concern about with the 3DS is its 3D feature. Like, yeah, imagine giving a 3DS to like a kid who's like under 7 and they accidentally turn the 3D feature on. Yeah, that might actually cause a problem. But I still think the 3DS was a hidden gem of a console, but I was kind of gutted that I did miss out on most of its life cycle when my original broke in like late 2014, but I was just thankful that I did miss out on games like Chibi Robo Ziplash. But I did play Hey Pikmin though. Number 6, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The reason I put the SNES at 6 is mainly because the SNES does have a few advantages to the original NES. Because we do have games like Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Super Metroid, Earthbound, and my favourite Mario RPG, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. And the one thing I do like better on here is that you can play Game Boy games with the Super Game Boy accessory. Number 5, the GameCube. Like, I know this console did not do well in sales, but this console is like a nostalgic powerhouse. Like, this does have games like Super Mario Sunshine, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and of course, Pokemon Colosseum. And I know I said this for the SNES, there is an accessory called the Game Boy Player, which does allow you to play up to Game Boy Advance alongside Game Boy Color and original Game Boy games. Just a bummer you cannot play Game Boy Advance Video though, because it would have been cool if I could watch Shrek on my GameCube. And of course, you can link your Game Boy Advance to the GameCube itself for The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. And you can bring your Pokemon over via Pokemon Box if you wanted to take yours all the way to Sword and Shield from there. Number 4, the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch hasn't ended its life cycle yet, but the reason I put Nintendo Switch at 4 is mainly because I do like the fact you can take the Nintendo Switch anywhere with you and play it on the TV at the same time. Having games so far, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Smash Ultimate, and a whole bunch of ports from the Wii U as well. But the only problem with the console though is mainly Joy-Con drift. But we do have alternate models for the Switch, as well as the Nintendo Switch Lite and the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Which the OLED model does give me a better experience as of the screen. But I cannot finalize the Joy-Cons on the OLED because I've not experienced drift yet. Number 3, the Nintendo Wii. The reason I put the Wii this high on the list is mainly because the Wii was my childhood. Like, I grew up playing games such as Wii Sports, Mario Kart, Just Dance, and New Super Mario Bros. And I do think the Wiimote controller might be a bit dangerous for like your TV sometimes, but I do think this console is a bit nostalgic for the ones who were 5 years old in the late 2000s. Like, and with having other great games such as The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, Kirby's Epic Yarn, which I did want to play as a kid but didn't get to, but if I were eventually to come back to the Wii, not the Wii U, I might play Kirby's Epic Yarn. Number 2, the Game Boy Advance. This might get a bit controversial that I have put the Game Boy Advance way higher than the original 2 Game Boys, is mainly because the Game Boy Advance, in my opinion, is probably the best way to experience Game Boy in modern day, besides the Analog Pocket that ended up releasing from this third-party developer. And the Game Boy Advance, you can connect to the GameCube for games like The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures, and it is also backwards compatible with Game Boy and Game Boy Color as well. Although there hasn't been that many memorable titles on the system, we still have some solid titles like the Minish Cap, Advance Wars, and Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Number 1, the Nintendo DS. The reason I put the Nintendo DS this high on the list, like, it might sound a bit controversial that I put the DS higher than any other Nintendo console, is mainly because the DS was my childhood. Like, this was the first Nintendo that I have had to myself. Like, I think I might have got the Wii, like, 1 year earlier, but I ended up sharing the Wii with my sister, but the Nintendo DSi was the first Nintendo I fully had to myself. Experiencing games like New Super Mario Bros., Mario Kart DS, and some Disney games like Cars. Even though I wasn't introduced to Pokemon at the time I've owned a DS, I did manage to discover Pokemon later on, and I managed to become a big fan of the Pokemon franchise from there. So guys, what did you think of my ranking list for the Nintendo consoles? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and turn your notification bell on, so you don't miss another video in the future. Well, I might end up ranking the Xbox and PlayStation consoles next, but whichever one you want next, just reply in the comments section below, because I'm ready to do either PlayStation or Xbox. So I'll see you all in a future ranking video. BB8 out.